and our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Monmouth in the flesh.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to the It Slays podcast. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
And it's a conspicuous chalk outline Mike.
I'm Colton.
And it's Jill.
And we are back for another episode that hopefully we can get recorded before dawn, because I'm just having so many technical issues going on here that hopefully I don't pull a mic and trick or treat and just crash this whole thing, halfway through it or something. We'll see what happens. But Jill is back. She was not with us. She didn't pass, but she
it's not my fault. First of all, don't drag me like that. I was ready to go. I watched The Lodge. I was ready to go, and it was Easter Sunday, and I had to go to my in-laws. So, not my fault. I wanted to be there.
Well, I don't know if you listened back to the episode, but you had a great review of The Lodge anyways that we all stood by, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Jill's like, you know damn well I didn't listen to that episode.
I guess I'll have to go listen now.
Yeah, really.
Caught me.
So now that she's back, we can get into what we have been consuming. What have we been watching? What have we been listening to? What have we been reading? What have we been playing? All those nerds like Colton out there. We will start with you, Jill. You were gone. What have you been consuming?
You always start with me. Let's be real.
Ladies first.
But I'm such a lady. Yeah, I've been playing Sons of the Forest Early Access. I didn't mention this before, but yeah, I've been playing that for a little while, and I put it on like peaceful mode because it's really fucking hard, and I've got it all mapped out. Like, I'm gonna show the camera. I've like printed maps.
Oh my god!
I'm going around. I'm like highlighting things. I have notes.
I love that.
So yeah, I'm pretty hardcore, I guess. Trying to collect all the things. It's actually really hard. It's a lot harder than The Forest, if you're familiar, in my opinion. But yeah, it's a little janky in early access, but it's a fun time. I'm liking it. I'm reading a book called Mooncallers, Stars Wake. It's a fantasy. I started reading it in 2018, and I put it down, and so I'm restarting it because I'm trying to. I have a stack of books. It's like a doom pile of books, and I'm trying to make my way down there, but
I laughed because I feel that. I wasn't laughing at you. I was like, it pained me because I feel it.
It's so bad. It's because I try to, I get in the bathtub, right? I have a bubble bath, and I get really high, and then I get too high, and then I can't read because I forget who the characters are every time. So, this is my problem. Anyway.
Do you ever forget to get out of the bath?
Oh, I stay there for hours. That's how I watch the movies also for the podcast. I usually watch those in the bath time, especially for stream screams.
She's just wrinkly as hell, looking like the old woman from The Shining by the time she gets out of the bath.
Already wrinkly as hell, so, yeah.
She's halfway there.
I watched the original Evil Dead this weekend. Haven't seen the new one. Been trying to get my husband to go with me, but he's hard to get to do things. So it was a nice little precursor for Evil Dead 2. I had a Scream marathon where I rewatched all the Scream movies, and I finished that kind of recently. That was fun. And apart from that, I've been watching Working Moms on Netflix because Rowan got me into it, so it's like my feel-good show. And then I've also been watching Swarm, but I'm not dedicated enough to it because I forgot I was watching it. But
how many episodes were you in the Swarm? Just curious.
Ooh, 2 or 3.
Okay. You're not at the
Why?
best episode yet if you're only 2 or 3. In my opinion, the best
Okay.
episode's number 4, so.
I agree with
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll watch that tonight. That'll be my plans. Thanks. Yeah, that's all I got. What about you, Colton?
Yeah, honestly, I haven't been watching a whole lot outside of what we've been doing for Now Slaying, because by the time people are listening to this, we literally have episodes on Renfield, The Pope's Exorcist, Evil Dead Rise, and Beau is Afraid. With the last 2 in particular, I think being like pretty good episodes, like pretty good discussions between Rowan and I. Yeah, I think those are like literally both about an hour long, so that's pretty long for a Now Slaying episode. Outside of those, I rewatched The Lighthouse with a close friend of mine who's never seen it, and even though she wasn't the biggest fan of it, she enjoyed it, but like she didn't like kind of get the hype. I still thought it was pretty excellent. And then earlier today, I watched a newly released folk horror movie that I've been looking forward to for a while called Ennis Men, and it was fine. It wasn't. It was nothing
Irish.
special. It follows a horticulturalist who was posted on kind of like this isolated island off the Cornish coast, where essentially she just lives alone and logs daily observations about a rare flower, which, you know, basically means that the first half of the movie is super slow and somewhat difficult to sit through, as it just basically showcases her monotonous day-to-day life. And then, you know, about 45 minutes to 50 minutes in, she starts to see some weird shit on the island and slowly loses her mind. So it's kind of something similar in the vein of like The Wicker Man, and it actually kind of even looks like it was shot back then. Like they do a really good job of like kind of evoking the 70s stylistic sensibilities of film at the time. But it's not quite as accomplished as The Wicker Man. Like, I mean, The Wicker Man's kind of a classic in folk horror. So I basically came out of it just wishing it were a little bit more propulsive. Like literally the first 45 or 50 minutes almost feels like a nature documentary to some degree. Or that like the horror that's featured later on in the movie, specifically within like last 10 to 15 minutes. Like I wish it was just surfaced or more consistent throughout, like that it didn't take 45 minutes for even something kind of eerie to happen. It's not a bad movie per se, but just, you know, not something I'd probably likely go back and watch again. You know, had some good moments. If you're a fan of folk horror, maybe check it out or put it on in the background and start paying more attention in the last half. But yeah, it was all right. Nothing special. What about you, Mike? What have you been watching?
Not a lot, honestly. I've been a really busy couple of weeks and just been like super drained.
Yeah.
I've been keeping up on like my Yellow Jackets, although I've not finished the latest episode yet because I was working all weekend. But I've been watching. I never watched Drag Race UK season 2, so I started that and it's really fun. And Friday I got together with a couple of my friends and we finally were like, let's watch a movie, because it's the only way apparently that I'm going to like force myself to actually sit down and like chill and just take something in. And we started watching, we went on Shudder and we started watching some movie with Anna Gunn in it that's like, we weren't like partying, but we were just drinking, and you know, because it was my friend's birthday, and it turned out to be this like fucking goddamn Bergman chamber drama where the two characters are just sitting down in the kitchen for like 45 minutes just talking, and we were like not even paying attention, and we decided to just stop watching it because nobody knew what was happening. And so we put on this other movie that, oh my god, what was it called? Like Anything for Josiah or something. It was this
Anything for Jackson.
Anything for Jackson.
Yeah.
Yes,
I saw your login.
Yeah. It was a movie, and I watched it, and it was not the worst thing I've ever seen.
What a glowing review.
It was. Listen. I feel like if I had smoked up before I watched it, which I should have, instead of after, I probably would have like really enjoyed it a lot more. It had potential. I feel like maybe if it had a little few more dollars thrown at it, they might have, or if they'd gone crazy and like gone camp with it, which they didn't do. But yeah, and other than that, I've actually been like, we were talking about, like Jill was saying, you know, Sons of the Forest. I'm kind of back into an old game of mine that I started playing in early access that is vaguely similar, and it's 7 Days to Die.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, and I used to play that when it first came out on Steam, and it was really wonky and like really clunky. And then when it came out on PlayStation, I was like, obviously I'm going to get it because PlayStation is like what I game on. And I was streaming it. I picked it up again like 2 weeks ago and really got into it. and I was streaming it, and this guy I know was in the chat, and he said, "Oh, it looks like you're running that on your, like, Samsung smart fridge." I was like, what the fuck are you talking about, you saucy piece of shit? And so I looked it up, and it turns out that the console version is, like, Alpha 10 from 2017, whereas the PC version is Alpha 20 from last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I was playing a 5-year-old version of the game, and so I re-downloaded it on my laptop. And it's literally a completely different game. So I, like, just started syncing. Like, it's mindless, because it's, like, you know, building up. It's kind of like Minecraft meets a zombie apocalypse. You know, you're going around and you're just trying to, like, survive
On
and
steroids.
scavenge. Yeah, exactly. So
you can, like, ride a plane.
I mean, maybe.
Or a helicopter. You can. I've done it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. I know that there's, like, bikes, and there's a lot more in it.
Yeah.
Like, I was so proud because I spent like 2 weeks playing it on console, and I was like streaming it, and I was so proud of myself because I'm like, I finally made a motorbike after 5 years. And then it turns out they're like, what the fuck is this? That is a 5-year-old vehicle.
I tuned into one of your streams, Mike, when you were streaming it, only for like 20 or 30 minutes, but it was essentially just you smacking cars nonstop, just beating up cars to get like supplies from it. I was like, yeah, this is top tier streaming content.
I know. I was like, I was just like, I'm only streaming because I want to listen to like whatever this album is. And
yeah, that's what you were doing. You were like listening to music and just rolling along and beating up cars. That was it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Scintillating content, Buzz. Yeah, so that's like I've been just syncing all of my like anytime I have like right before we started recording for like 15 minutes, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna spend 15 minutes now and like do that. So that's really what I've been doing and consuming. Ro, lay it on us. What do you got going? What 80,000 things?
Mine's not that crazy, so
yeah.
I mean, like Colton said, you know, we saw the new Evil Dead, Bo is alive, Pope's Exorcist, Renfield.
Bo is afraid.
Bo is afraid.
He's also alive, but he's afraid as well.
Yeah, he's kind of alive.
Oh my God.
And then in preparation for the new Evil Dead, I finally got my 4K copies in of the original Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. So I did rewatch those on 4K, and they look better than they've ever looked. It's like, especially Evil Dead 2 is probably the best I've ever seen. It's probably the best 4K I've ever watched.
Holy shit.
Ixley even commented, like, most of the shots, it looks like like a movie from 2023. Like, it's just super pristinely edited. For 4K. I also watched...
is Army of Darkness out on 4K yet, or is that coming out?
I was just about to say, I did watch my Army of Darkness 4K.
Oh, okay. Oh, you already had the Army of Darkness,
yeah, Scream Factory put it out.
Yes.
So I did rewatch that also. And then... on the non-horror side, I rewatched American Pie 1 and 2. They were on Tubi, and it had been a little while since I had seen them.
Since you had seen Jason Biggs' penis?
I don't think you ever actually see it, but...
yeah, do you see balls?
There's literally a piece of glass smushed up against it.
Oh, I mean, I guess. They all kind of run together for me. They were fine. Like, they're serviceable. I think they're more nostalgic than they are good. I know me and Jill discussed in text message the second one's problematicness of just a story of college guys trying to do underage high school girls.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like in 2023, these movies probably aren't getting made.
No, they're done.
Yeah,
they are. They're called Licorice Pizza.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say they're done because there's like 10 direct-to-video movies of American Pie, apparently.
Yeah, but when was the last time one came out?
Yeah.
I mean, ages ago. But I was more so talking about the problematic relationships, you know.
I think their sole purpose now is just to keep Eugene Levy employed, and
The last one I remember was
paycheck.
Yeah, the last one I remember I think was called like Book of Love or something.
Who
been
knows?
One after Book of Love?
I mean, all I know is that you can go in the Walmart, you can buy like a collection of them on DVD, and there's like 8 or 9 in the box set thing. So
it's not even a box set. It's literally they all fit on one disc because they're like
they're just garbage.
45 minutes. Yeah, they're like in like 480p.
Ooh, guys, I'm only missing out on one. Apparently, there's Girls Rules that came out October 6, 2020. So I need to watch that, and then I've seen them all.
There you go. Well, maybe it'll be so.
Wait, but who's in Girls Rules? Any of the?
It does not have a Wikipedia page for me to click on, so I don't know.
So it's
it's a good one.
It's that good.
They just used AI actors for that.
And yeah, I rewatched Belly because I also got my Belly 4K in, and it looks
nice,
fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, if you've never seen Belly, it stars DMX and Nas. It's written and directed by Hype Williams, who made basically any iconic hip-hop video of the 90s. It's the only movie he's ever directed, and you know, it's like a 90-minute long music video. It looks awesome. It's probably most well known for its like iconic intro scene where it's all this like weird, it's like a strip club, but it's like glow in the dark, and it's a diamond heist, and they have like contacts with like black lights going. It's like just really well done. And yeah, it looks awesome on 4K. And I've, on the TV side of things, I've been watching Curb Your Enthusiasm because I decided to start from season 1. It's a show that I always start, and then I feel like I just keep watching season 1 and 2, and I never make it past 2 because I go to something else. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta rewatch that. Let's start again at season 1, and it's just a repeated cycle.
What is it? Tell us.
What?
It's Curb Your Enthusiasm.
It's Curb Your Enthusiasm.
I thought you were telling us to curb enthusiasm.
Oh my god. Okay.
I'm done.
Cut the cameras. Cut the cameras. Dead ass.
I was going to say, like, I haven't seen much Curb, a couple episodes here or there, but is it really required to like know season 1 and 2 like in detail in order to understand season 3? Like, can't you just like, I've seen it before, let's go to season 3? Like, why do you have to keep restarting?
I mean, I just rewatched it because there's some episodes that I couldn't remember. It's kind of good I did because it was one of those shows kind of like Seinfeld that I always assumed you could just kind of pick up whenever, and it's just, they're all funny even if they're out of context, but there is actually a lot of through jokes now that I'm in season 4 that they do like callbacks to like an episode in season 1, and you don't really know what they're talking about unless you've seen it. So yeah, I'm in the middle of season 4. It's pretty funny. This whole season guest features Mel Brooks. So that's pretty sweet. I'm a big Mel Brooks fan. So Larry David gets cast to do to be one of the actors in Mel Brooks' new production of The Producers, and it's him and Ben Stiller. And just comedy ensues because Larry David's terrible.
Is there any springtime for Hitler? Because that's, you know, one of the great moments in The Producers. I don't know, have they done that yet?
They haven't done that yet. They're still in like pre-production of it. And then other than that, all I've really been doing, I was even doing it before I recorded, was I finally started playing The Last of Us 2. And so yeah, I'm getting through that. I'm not like you guys. I'm not logging crazy hours. I kind of pick it up for a half hour here, a half hour there when I'm not, recording or editing or doing something.
The best way to experience a 30-hour story-driven game. A half hour here, a half hour there.
I'd have to shut the podcast down, and I just feel like that can't happen, so...
And every time he picked it up, he had to go back and restart it from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has to play that half hour that he played last week
every time
again.
I'm just
to play
going
the
back.
new half hour.
I'm just going back and forth. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've been really consuming. Haven't been doing a whole lot. So normally I ask one of you guys why you picked the movie that we are reviewing, but this is my pick. So I picked from the greatest year ever, as I always say, 1987. It's when greatness was born. Two great things, me and Evil Dead 2. We reviewed Evil Dead 1 the first year of the podcast. It was
oh my god, it was that long ago?
It was a Patreon picks. I think Ash picked it for us.
It was Ash, yeah.
And Mike was still recording on, I think, like a
PlayStation headset.
A PlayStation headset.
Yes.
Which are just notoriously terrible. And I can't believe you actually used it for a podcast. That's insane.
Listen, I was, as I am right now, very poor. So, Ro wanted to do it, and I said, "This is all I have." That's why I now have a better mic.
Let's do it. So,
yeah, just please pledge to the Patreon so Mike can make a living wage.
Oh my god.
We need like one of those really like sad music, like Arms of an Angel, like one of the infomercials, the UNICEF.
Yes,
infomercials.
Get Sarah McLachlan to come and plead my case.
Yeah, we'll just change the goal just so Mike can pay his rent.
Yeah.
It'll just be, the goal on there.
But yeah, so I picked this. I've watched this movie 8 billion times. It's a lot of times. It's been very formative. Of my youth. It was kind of one of the first horror movies I kind of remember seeing. And I just felt it was time, It had been so long since we did the first Evil Dead that why not do the second? I didn't even plan this with the new Evil Dead having just come out in theaters, because I had this already picked forever ago and I did not know the release date. So it was just kind of happy coincidence. But yeah, we'll get more into it when we're talking about first experiences, but we'll get into the trailer, and then we'll be back for the synopsis of Evil Dead 2.
4 years ago, in this quiet forest, in this cozy cabin, something happened. Something so frightening. Something so deadly. We prayed it would never happen again. Now, from the creator of Evil Dead comes Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn.
Now playing at a theater near you. Consult local listings.
Evil Dead 2 was directed by Sam Raimi and written by Sam Raimi and Scott Spiegel, and the story is as follows. In the second entry of the Evil Dead franchise, after discovering an audio tape that contains voices reading from the Book of the Dead, Ash's girlfriend Linda becomes possessed by evil spirits awakened by the voices on the tape. And before you know it, Ash finds himself once again battling horrifying demons and realizing there is no escaping this cabin in the woods.
So first experiences, is this your first time seeing it, or are you just crazy about Ash and Ash is your ultimate final girl? We will start with you, Colton. Is this your first time seeing Evil Dead 2?
No, it's my second time seeing Evil Dead 2. So the first time I've seen the Evil Dead 1 and 2 is probably, I would say, the summer before the remake came out. So probably in 2012, I would say. It was just essentially I was working at a hotel and with a buddy of mine, and we would work the graveyard shift. We'd kind of just both be in there. And essentially we brought a laptop to work and watch a bunch of movies because it was literally a little hotel in Labrador. You get one person every 3 or 4 days that'd come through on our shift. And yeah, we watched Evil Dead 1 and 2, I think pretty close to back. And yeah, that was my first experience watching them. And yeah, I just haven't really gone back to it since. I as I mentioned on the Evil Dead Rise episode, I specifically remember liking the 2013 remake. But similarly, I haven't gone back and seen that either. So yeah, second time seeing it. What about you, Mike?
I've seen it numerous times over the years. I remember when I saw the first one, in high school, and absolutely fucking loved it. The first thing I did following that was we need to watch number 2. Let's go seek it out. And so I've watched it. I haven't watched it as much as the first one over the years, but my dear friends that I watched it with, back in the day for the first time, one of us would always have a special edition DVD of it or whatever. And so we'd always have a copy of it kicking around and then be what are we going to do? What are we going to watch? Can't think of anything. Oh, let's throw on Evil Dead 2, right? It's one of those. I haven't seen it as many times as Rowan, but I've definitely, you know, watched it a handful of times over the years. And if somebody says, like, I've never seen any of the Evil Deads, it's like, damn. Or I love horror comedy, or I've never seen a horror comedy. You know, we trot it out a lot. What about you, Jill?
I think this is also my second time seeing Evil Dead 2. I think maybe when I was in high school, so like 2006, 2007, somewhere around there. That's probably the first time that I watched it. Both of those, actually all of them, with my friends. So yeah, it was nice to go back there and watch it, you know, with a fully developed frontal lobe. So things hit different. And I know
nice
Rowan is dying. So. Oh, what the hell? Listen, why don't you tell us about how you watched it, you know, being a toddler?
Well,
Rowan.
I thought I would list off all 8 billion times I have seen it. So seems like a Rowan thing to do. No, I mean, I just always remember this being in my life. I'm sure I talked about when we reviewed the first one. When I was little, I used to call it the mashed potato movie. Because they obviously use mashed potato for the Demonites, like, insides. And that one, I think, was on, like, a blank tape. I feel like it was an illegal copy. This one, though...
You pirate.
I know, my parents just pirating. But this one, I remember the case, like, I remember having this as long as I can remember, and I remember watching this probably once a week at least as a child. It's just I know it beat for beat. You know, I know everything that's gonna happen before it happens, what's gonna be said before it's gonna be said. It's kind of a comfort movie, you know, something I'll put in that you know, if I'm just doing something I don't need to be paying attention to because I know it so well. And I mean, I'm sitting here looking. I have the 4K, I have the Blu-ray, I have the DVD, and I have the VHS of it sitting on my shelf. So it's an okay movie, in my opinion.
Spoiling his review already.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. Rowan gives it an okay.
It's an okay. Light okay. So yeah, well, let's get into the meat and potato of everything. You know where
Mashed potatoes.
You know where we're gonna start. Our favorite kill and or favorite scene. Mike, we'll start with you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for throwing the ball over to me. It's actually hard because there's just so many like hysterical, chaotic set pieces in this movie. But like one that I just love so much and I always think about and it like is weirdly comforting is the like scene in the tool shed. When he puts her head in the fucking clamp in the vice grip.
It's so fucked up.
Oh my god. And it's just like, it's so fucking funny. And it's so gross. And like, I watch that and I see the like slapstick gore of it, like in every movie that is even vaguely similar in like the, 30 years since. Like, I remember I would, like, see, like, Dead Alive and all that shit. Like, I feel like that scene encapsulated, like, also what was so fun about Sam Raimi. And it's very much the, like, the horror and the gore and the slapstick and the over-the-top of everything. And, you know, I just, like, to me, that crystallized what's so great about this movie in, like, one scene. And it's just so funny. It's hilarious. And it's disgusting. And it's a head in a vice grip in a tool shed. Like... It's terrifying, like, on paper, you know, it's like, anyway, I just love that scene. It's my jam, it's my go-to. What about you, Colton?
Yeah, I don't know, it's hard for me as well. It's not necessarily just, I just feel like the movie's fairly consistent with, like, its tone and, like, what it's doing, so it wasn't really so much so that, like, one scene kind of stood out, for very different reasons than, like, one scene from The Lodge didn't stand out, just because, you know, they're very different movies. I would say probably the one that sticks out in my mind right now is the scene with the elk head coming to life that's like mounted in the cabin, and then like kind of all the bookcases and the pieces of furniture like laughing at him, and the lamp kind of like following his motion. It's just very like chaotic and weird, and I like seeing kind of like the space being personified. And it's kind of a vibe that you don't really see in many horror movies nowadays. You don't really see like living spaces come to life like that. Like that's, I don't know, it's just something, it's an aspect of horror we've kind of dropped or left behind, I guess. And even back then, I can't really think of too many movies that do it. Like Houseu probably has a similar vibe where, you know, the house is very much coming to life and, you know, it'll have faces and it'll eat you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, when
like
I was watching it, I
Beetlejuice
was like,
or something, maybe.
Yeah. I was like, I just thought it was a fun scene. Yeah. What about you, Jill? What was your favorite scene or kill?
Before I say that, I wanted to say that's a really good point, Colton, about like space personified and the rock, is it a rocking chair that he was sitting in, or the chair, whatever kind of chair it was. That really stuck with me. So anyway, yeah, I thought that was cool. My favorite scene though, I have two. They're so for the first one is the hand scene, where his hand is just like being ridiculous. And I like when it's like inching for the butcher's knife and you can see through like the vision of the hand like dragging his body towards this knife. It's so good. It's so funny. That whole scene is chaotic. And yeah, the other thing is that like it kind of reminds me of, don't get mad, Colton, I'm gonna bring up Leonardo DiCaprio. So Leonardo DiCaprio.
All good. I like Leo.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah.
In Wolf of Wall Street, when he takes the Quaaludes and he's like in the country club, like dragging himself back to his car. It really reminded me of that performance, and I was like, someone has to give this man an Oscar. This is such good acting when he's just like acting with his hand. I loved it. The other scene I really liked was the eyeball scene where Henrietta is in the fruit cellar and she gets smushed and her fucking eyeball just pops out and goes into the chick's mouth. Bobby, yeah, into her mouth. That was so gross and like so quick. It was so good. Gagged. What about
like
you,
eyeball
Rowan?
scenes are always good.
Yes. Always.
Yeah, so I mean, Jill told me mine. I mean, to me, my favorite scene, which is always my most memorable scene, is with the hand. I love just, I do love, Bruce Campbell kind of embodying, a one-man Three Stooges performance. Using his hand as another character and just smashing the plates over his head and everything so over exaggerated. I love the hand going into the mouse hole and and taunting him, and then the hand gets caught in the mouse trap, gives him the finger. And like, it's so ridiculous. And to me, this is kind of like the peak of, like the kind of comedy in this horror movie. And then what, isn't, a gag such as, a severed hand giving you the finger, but when he shoots the hand and then it's just all the blood starts just pouring out of the wall all over him. And it's like brown, gucky blood. Like, that always cracks me up. And, that's probably my favorite scene in the whole movie.
And I love how, like, it doesn't just, like, explode out of nowhere. You have that, like, drawn out, like, 45 seconds where it's just the close-up of it, like, kind of dripping, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and you're like, oh, fuck. Like, what's gonna happen, and then all of a sudden it's just, like, fucking fire hose.
I wanted to, I guess first, almost start at the beginning of the movie, was the fact that I did a count. 5 minutes. It only took 5 minutes for this movie to get down the business and just start with, like, the death and the horror. Why can't we be so lucky that all horror movies would just start this quickly? But like, did the intro scene work for you guys with like the lore kind of just being told to you right away with the narrator?
Yeah.
Like, I was curious what you guys thought about that.
I liked it. It did a good job of bridging Evil Dead into the sequel and explaining the lore really quickly and then just jumping into it. Yeah, I didn't mind that. Do you think it's like cheesy or something? Or could be?
No, I mean, I thought it was effective. I mean, one thing that's always, I think if you're not familiar, I don't really know who you are, you people that aren't familiar with Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, but if you weren't, obviously it's a surprise because, the first, 20 minutes is just the first movie again.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like to some, that might be what the hell is going on here? I'm thinking if someone watched the first one and then had never seen this, then they're like, wait a second, he's going back to this cabin? What is going on here? That's That's kind of the only part of the beginning that I feel might throw someone off if they didn't realize that, Sam Raimi just didn't care. He was like, I got more money. I can do what I want. Leave me alone.
And he's like, they've already seen this 90-minute version of the story, so I can do it in 5 minutes and then move on. Like, I can just do the kind of like, and last time on, in case you forgot, last episode.
Yeah, well, and I mean, it kind of starts the, isn't this kind of like the Scream, like 2022, the requel?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Kind of
decades before.
Thing, before it was a thing. I noticed someone on the Wikipedia actually put requel in the Evil Dead 2 Wikipedia and said that this was a sort of requel. And I was like, oh, those damn kids.
I think he was just trying to get the movie as close to like feature length as he can. And he was like, you know what? We're going to put in a little bit of Army of Darkness, just a straight lead into the next movie. And also we're going to put in some footage basically from Evil Dead 1 so we can make this a movie. Have 90 minutes included.
Well, I mean, yeah, I would suspect it was a little bit about that. I do know that he basically wanted this one to be Army of Darkness. The idea was that this film was going to be in the Middle Ages, fighting the Deadites, but no one would fund him for that. So the only way he got the funding was it had to be a Cabin in the Woods movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think it's kind of interesting. Like, it's kind of an interesting, like, almost like fuck you to the system where it's like, okay, like you want, like, I can't make my movie without it being like just a rehash of what I did the first time. Well, then I'm actually going to just rehash it. And I'm literally going to do the same beats for half of the movie, just with different people.
Yeah, I think that's why when I watched it the first time, when I watched 1 and 2, like I think I literally watched them back to back, just rolling into them for the first time watching it. I think the second one didn't work as well for me just because I felt like it was just retreading so many of the beats of the first one. And also you're going in with all of that kind of pressure that everyone's like Evil Dead 2 is the best one. So where Evil Dead 1 kind of felt a little bit fresh to me, or at least, like, obviously you've seen these screenshots or you've seen these scenes just by watching movies. When I got to the second one, it was very much like, oh, I just literally watched all this 90 minutes ago, like a lot of these beats. This time I kind of knew that going in, right? And I don't remember Evil Dead 1 well enough anymore. I thought about watching Evil Dead 1, a couple days ago, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to repeat it again. I'll just go ahead and watch Evil Dead 2. And I think I remember it gives you like a spark notes right at the beginning of the movie to explain it, essentially. So I did like how trippy the narration and like kind of how the movie begins, with all the weird visuals. That was fun.
Yeah, I'm interested. I guess it would be, I'm not sure, Colton, if you would recall one or not. Like, I'm curious, like, do you guys have a preference on 1 or 2? I know there's kind of like 2 camps that, and I don't think either camp takes away from the other, because this is kind of always, in those lists of like greatest sequels or greatest horror comedies. But I mean, 1 is a totally different beast. It's a totally different kind of movie. I'm just curious what, your guys' opinion is on the first one side by side with this one.
Yeah, it's been so long since I've seen it that I can't really comment. It's like, in my head, I remember preferring the first one when I watched it, but kind of appreciating like some of the weird gore effects and like kind of zaniness of the second one. But I mean, if I was being honest, in my head, once again, only vaguely remembering these movies, my favorite's probably literally the 2013 one, because that's just more my vibe and what I like. So I don't know if that's actually true if I were to sit through all the movies, but in my head, I'd probably go, yeah, I probably prefer the 2013 remake over both of them. So that might be sacrilegious, but it's just more my vibe.
I just watched them both together, 1 and 2, and 2 all day for me. I love 2. I think they just did so much better with the budget and him being able to do what he wanted to do. But also, I like the remake, the 2013, better than the original. That's sacrilegious. I'm sorry, Rowan, but yeah, the 2013 one is so good with the raining blood. Oh my Jesus!
I mean, you don't have to apologize to me.
Rowan did write and direct it.
Yeah.
Rowan may or may not have said on the Evil Dead Rise Now Slaying that the 2013 one is his favorite.
Oh, really? Okay, all right.
As time goes on,
We'll see if he edits it out, but
no, I mean, I that's probably the one I revisit now the most. I think.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's just so my sensibilities now. I prefer like the mean-spiritedness of the 2013 one. I just thought it was interesting because, like I said, Evil Dead 2, like this is my childhood, and it's been kind of interesting as the years have gone by, and I do revisit these movies at least once a year, and I think I almost lean more now on the first one. Obviously a lot of the claymation stuff and the effects and everything look great in this. I think everything does look great in 2, but I just think the first one, I don't know, maybe I'm just getting old or something, but I did find the first one worked. It was effective as like a horror movie. It was a lot more, the Deadites were way more creepier in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot more unsettling stuff that I thought and this was kind of missing, which is where the thing I didn't love was the cast on this one. Like, I preferred it being his group of friends, his sister, his girlfriend, like his best friend, as opposed to this where we get like the professor's daughter and her husband, and then the two, country folks.
They were very, like, over-the-top characters. What'd you say, Jill?
I can't say rednecks on this show. I remember what happened during sleepaway camp.
I was gonna say, you
hillbillies, whatever it was.
It was another word for rednecks.
Hillbillies.
Gonna get another 1-star review. Thank you, Jill.
I'm sorry, but
we're gonna have to review. There must be a movie with that in the title that we'll just have to review.
Hills Have Eyes is pretty close. We could probably get it in there.
Hillbillies, have I?
But yeah, I think these, kind of redneck characters work for the comedy. Like they definitely are way more able to do comedic bits with them and stuff. But it was just that Ash kind of has no connection to these people, and I just felt there was like a connection missing, where it just, that part didn't necessarily work as well for me as it used to.
I did like how much that one guy just kept shouting out Bobby Joe, though. That was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Bobby Joe!
The one redeeming, trait of that.
I will say, though, his name was Ed, I guess, the husband or boyfriend or whatever of the archaeologist's daughter. I did really like his Deadite look. I thought he was one of the better looking Deadites of the whole series. And I also love the gag where he eats her hair and he's like choking on it.
Yeah.
It's pretty gross.
Yeah, eating hair is absolutely the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, when all these characters kind of showed up and then eventually they all start running out of the cabin, that was when the movie lost a little bit of steam for me when I was watching it. It wasn't like I wasn't bored, but it just was kind of always in like this heightened manic state for like a while, just that it was almost like too long or too exhausting, just this one kind of frantic vibe that I was kind of like, man, I wonder if I would have preferred it if it actually was just more about Ash just by himself, because I was enjoying him just in the cabin by himself going absolutely crazy. And when they forced all these characters in that I just really didn't care about and, just killed them in similar ways in the other movie or whatever, I was like, I don't know. I was just kind of, let's get rid of these people so we can see more Ash, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
Speaking of Ash, I will admit that I think his physical acting is very good in this movie, Bruce Campbell's, with his hand, as we said, all of the funniness. But I think he is genuinely awful in this movie. Like, so bad.
He's so unhinged, though.
I don't know what it is. I think it's obviously the way he's directed, but it's just like all of the line deliveries are so awkward and forced that he's just...
Groovy.
I understand he's supposed to be a goofy guy. It was just like, I don't know, when I was watching it, just like kind of removed from the first one, I guess just when I sat down, I was like, man, I don't know if I think this is a very good actor.
It's camp.
Yeah.
It's almost, I feel like it's almost better to remove it from the first movie, because the first one, it, still does have a bit of like the comedic running through it. Like, it's obviously more of like a subtler undertone than literally the overtone, the tone, in your fucking face. But also,
it really embraces it in the second one. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say also it's just Bruce Campbell is extremely hot.
He's got like kind of a unibrow going on, and that
for the
like
whole
really...
movie. Yeah. Okay, Mike's into unibrows.
No, I don't like unibrow. The unibrow's my problem. It's not hot.
This was young peak Bruce Campbell.
I don't give a shit.
Also, it was a makeup choice, and that person should have been fired for that because they literally did like a cut/blood smear across his unibrow. It was brutal.
I thought it looked wonderful. Bruce Campbell, if you're listening to this, my number is
709.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just when I was watching it, it was kind of like I like aspects of this character, like how zany it is, or how it's interesting to see like a final boy, a final man. I don't know what the fuck it's called. It was interesting.
Final man.
Final man.
He's the only acceptable final boy. I will say that.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like almost every line delivery in this movie was like, this is my first acting gig and I just don't know what I'm doing. And then also I feel like a lot of the camera work was very much like, we're just figuring it out. We don't know. We never came in with a plan. We're just putting things down and we're kind of, let's see what happens. And due to that, there is kind of like a quaintness to this movie that I did enjoy. It's very like, I don't know, kind of slapped together to a certain degree. And sometimes you get like kind of genius moments, like obviously the floating camera through the woods type stuff that's like iconic.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you get like, this is just like the worst framed shot I've ever seen. I don't know what they're going for in this shot, but whatever. It's like, I don't know. They just seemed like they were just experimenting with almost everything.
I was gonna say about Bruce Campbell's performance. I kind of with this watch like was starting to see like, I don't know if you guys could tell, but I felt there's no way he wasn't like pretty influenced by like, seemed to be a little like Charlton Heston going on. I was thinking like a little Planet of the Apesies.
That's an interesting comparison. I never thought about that.
Yeah, I would.
Do you say Apesies?
I never want to think about it again.
Yeah, no, I was thinking like kind of Charlton Heston, maybe a little young William Shatner going on, like some of his speech patterns and just his reactions to stuff.
You're talking about bad line delivery, which I would agree with.
Oh my goodness.
Camp.
You roasted yourself.
Camp.
Both of those actors, just like, the ending of Planet of the Apes, just like widely known to be just like a really bad line delivery. And then you're also referencing William Shatner, who's been dunked on for 50 years about his poor, speech patterns and whatnot. Just a really weird cadence of speech.
I mean, he parodied himself at one point in his career. He just like I guess he acknowledged this is what I'm known for, so I'm going to become my own self-parody.
Yeah.
It's fine.
To me, this is the movie where, like, Ash becomes Ash. This is what the character that everyone loves, well, except for Colton. But,
yeah, it's not that I don't love it. That is true. But I think it's fine. It's interesting. It's just weird how they really try and set him up as a badass at the end of the movie when he's literally, like, this bumbling idiot with a unibrow that speaks strangely for 90% of it, where they got, like, his chest bulging out, he got a chainsaw on his arm, he has a sawed-off shotgun slung across his back. He's very much supposed to be like this badass action hero hunk by the end of the movie, where he just looks like a buffoon for so much of the movie.
Well, I mean, it worked for some people. It worked for Mike, so...
I was gonna say, listen.
I gotta agree with Colton for once in my life.
Oh my god, all
wow.
Right. I'll take it.
Oh, Jill, just pile on me, why don't you? That's fine.
I'm sorry, but he does look goofy as fuck, but I think that's part of it. I think he's trying to be goofy, I hope.
I guess in my head, and maybe this is just Bruce Campbell ignorance, I've seen him in these movies, I've seen him in Ash versus the Evil Dead, and then I've seen him in like other Sam Raimi cameo movies, and I guess just in my head, he's just always really elevated, weird guy used for cameo appearances, but I haven't seen him really like lead a movie that's like a serious movie. Maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe it's just my ignorance with his career, but like, I don't know, let's say in the latest Doctor Strange movie, his name is like Pizza Poppy or something, and he's just in there. He just sucks. I'm just like, this guy blows. Like, I don't know even why you got him in here as a cameo. And I kind of felt it in this movie a little bit. Where I was like, it's quaint because it's early enough in his career, and it's just like, this is my second big acting role, and I don't know how to act. But I still feel like maybe like 50 years later, he doesn't really know how to act, or 40 years later, whatever. I don't know. I just got that vibe. I don't know. Maybe is there a great Bruce Campbell performance that I'm missing out on? Like his Oscar-nominated performance?
The fucking hand. I'm telling
okay,
you.
I already said the physical comedy is really good, but I mean, like, I'm gonna pull up his IMDb here now while you guys talk, and I'm gonna see.
He's got some good dramatic roles. Like,
all right,
I mean, he's just
you're
so
talking
much,
about
though. Like,
you're talking about the king of camp. This is the guy. He is camp.
Bubba Hotep.
And I'm allergic to camp, so that's that's maybe
well,
that's
you know
the
what?
issue.
You should have an inoculation.
Oh my god.
I've tried. I've watched a bunch
I
of
just
Candy
used
movies.
a polysyllabic word, Buzz.
And this is where I was interested in how Colton was going to feel about this movie in general. Because, like, to me, this is one of the movies that, like, kind of really defined what horror camp is. And, like, what you can do, how silly you can be, kind of the beats of it. And I like, all I could think about watching this, I was like, this is literally everything that I could possibly write on a list that Colton will probably hate is in this movie. So
100%,
I think if this had a higher budget and wasn't just very much like, it seems like a bunch of very well-known people at like the beginning of their careers just like actually enjoying making movies with their friends and doing weird shit, I think I would hate this movie. But there's like a quaintness to it that it makes it more fun and more acceptable, that it's like, oh, they're just experimenting with a budget. And I still kind of wonder how it's like heralded as like a masterpiece, I guess, but I didn't like hate it, that's for sure.
Are you spoiling your review?
A little bit, yeah.
Quick, everybody, pull up the Letterboxd. Pull up the Letterboxd.
would your review go higher if it opened and it just said A24?
Yep, 100%.
No, I think I'd be horribly disappointed, to tell you the truth. This is like, I don't know, this is like opposite of 99% of A24 movies. Beau is Afraid maybe being one of the few that might be similar.
It's Beau is alive now.
Yeah, it's Beau's alive.
Sorry. Oh, okay. My bad. Beau's alive.
I was going to say, too, and to me, I think, you know, as we've kind of been saying, like, to me, this is just the perfect blend of horror comedy. Like, this is the standard of horror comedy to me. Like, if you're not this good, then I don't want to watch your movie. It's a perfect blend. I kind of wish there's a little more horror to it. Because like I said, with the first one, like, I thought the Deadites were a little scarier. I think they could have still made the Deadites a little scarier in this one. I kind of wish they did. Because obviously, even with like Henrietta's transformation into like her long neck and stuff, we're really seeing like what is to come with Army of Darkness and kind of the more outrageous looking Deadite stuff. And it all, this is basically getting ready to take that turn into becoming, you know, this action adventure movie that is Army of Darkness, where I also felt the score kind of let it down a little bit, because the score is also pretty action adventure-y in this and not so much horror. I do like kind of the piano melody at the first, and, you know, where we get like the ballerina dance and stuff, and But then, like, the rest of the score, it didn't really match with the rest of the movie for me, on this go-around, at least.
Yeah, I can't recall it in my head, that's for sure. Like, there wasn't, like, too many, like, iconic themes or anything in it.
Yeah.
I did love that ballerina dance, though. I do have a note about how, like, that was...
Oh, my God, that was also one of my favorite parts of this movie, by the way.
Yeah, the stop motion dancing and just kind of like how they achieve the effects. And there's a lot of effects in this movie where I'm like, I don't really know how they achieved it in camera, which is interesting because back then, like, obviously they didn't have a bunch of CGI and a bunch of visual effects and shit to use. So it was just kind of, there's a lot of it that I was like, I would like to see almost like a making of for certain scenes in this movie, how they kind of brought it all together.
I for whatever reason, I don't like, well, this time watching it, like, I was more cognizant, I guess, of, like I said, when I was watching it, I kept thinking, like, you could see the influence of this in a lot of other movies, and, like that scene in particular, I was like, that looks like, I feel like Tim Burton was like, ooh, this is my aesthetic right here. You know what I mean? Like,
young Tim Burton was taking notes.
Oh, yeah, he is, like, furiously scribbling into his moleskin.
Yeah. I also thought
Stop
the
it.
mirror shot was really good. It actually got me. Like I didn't expect him to actually pop out and grab him. So I was like, oh, it was long enough that I was actually surprised by it. Not scared, but like, holy shit, that was a really good effect, you know?
I always have a GIF of that on my phone. It's like one of my favorite scenes.
It's a GIF, first of all.
The creator of the GIF settled
give a
the
shit.
argument and said it's pronounced GIF. So,
but I also enjoyed like the claymation and like the miniatures and all that stuff is so cool. I love that they did that.
Yeah, all of it isn't like perfect either. That's the thing. Like a lot of miniature work nowadays is almost like indiscernible from like the actual sets or the CGI models. Where this, like, once again, it's janky enough that it looks kind of quaint, and I give it like a pass. Where I'm like, oh, this is cute. This is like
all
nice.
the trees beating on the outside of the cabin. I love that shot. Yeah.
Yeah. I also like just how the cabin once again is like personified, where like it kind of pulls out a little bit. It does show a face over it a couple of times, but just the way that, you know, the windows are in just so, and the door is open, and then like the cobblestones out front looks like a teeth. Like it literally just looks like a skull. I love like those little trappings in the movie. Like those are the moments that I'm like, this is cute. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah.
It's cute.
I will say, you know, I don't know how sick it would make me, but I did not like the tree attack scene in this as much as I like it in the first one.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I can definitely see, I mean, obviously, you know, the initial tree rape in the first one was a little risque. It was a little much for the time.
For any time.
For any time. And you know, like, I just think it was just so glaringly obvious that, like, they toned it down for, like, tone down sake.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Where, to me, it was kind of like, you know, as horrid, you know, as that scene is in the first one, like, it's also pretty scary. And like I said, all the reasons I like the 2013 of, like, kind of this mean-spiritedness, which I think you need in these, like, demon possession, any of this kind of stuff, like, because these things are gonna do fucked up shit like that. To me, like, this was a little, it reminded me of Colton going on his rants about Nightmare on Elm Street. Because we get the trees, like, going into her face, kind of like the guy riding the motorbike on Nightmare on Elm Street. Which I'm very curious if that was influenced at all.
Yeah, I was thinking that, yeah.
Kind of the same kind of effect.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was still, like, to me, it was still fun. Like, you know, they rammed her into a tree. Unfortunately, like, you know, we cut away. We didn't really see anything. So it was more of almost a comedic beat than it was a horror beat. Yeah. Because, like, even when she runs in the tree, like, if I'm remembering, like, they kind of also, like, make a sound effect, too. So, it, you know, it still had, like I said, so much of this has, like, this, like, Three Stooges kind of just, like, physical comedy beats all in it and using sound like that.
I'm looking through my notes. I'm kind of like, do I have anything really to discuss? I have, like, weird nitpicks that are just, like, not really important for a movie like this. But, like, I noticed when Ash fell downstairs, he breaks all the stairs, and then as soon as the camera turns around, all the stairs are repaired again. I don't know, buddy. I don't know. It was something funny that they kept focusing on the stairs and him falling down the stairs, then eventually someone grabbing him through the stairs and all that stuff. And I was like, man, the stairs were broken in the first, like, 30 minutes of this movie, and they magically were repaired. You know, a carpenter was hard at work when he needed to go back upstairs. I don't know.
I mean, the house,
guys noticed it.
The cabin does seem to just be alive, right?
True.
With
you know,
the sound of music.
Yeah, it's kind of like the hand waviness to, you know, to explain it. But it was just kind of funny because it was literally like they show him, like, slumped next to the broken stairs and, like, the rat there and all that stuff. It's like such a centerpiece of the shot, and then they cut away, and, like, 5 seconds later it's like the stairs are perfectly repaired, like when he needs to go back up. It's just silly shit like that.
Ted Raimi just killing it as Henrietta.
Yeah,
I know. I was gonna say, what a guy.
Yeah, I didn't know it was him. Yeah, until I looked at the IMDb, like, cast list, because I was like, is there anybody in this movie I have to know the name of other than Ash and Bruce Campbell? And I pretty quickly decided no.
Yeah, no, Ted Raimi always keeping Evil Dead alive. A side note, if you're looking for a great little, like, Evil Dead companion, there is an episode of Creep Show that Ted Raimi stars in and directs on Shudder, and it is an Evil Dead episode where the spirits in the Necronomicon get unleashed in a television studio on like daytime television. And yeah, Ted Raimi just always killing it. I can only imagine how terrible that suit is. It looks so heavy. So it's just, I did read somewhere that apparently when Henrietta's spinning in the air, that if you watch it slowly, you can see like liquid pouring out of the ear, and apparently that's just sweat. That's just like,
oh my god,
dude.
Because one of the special effects people on this is Greg Nicotero? Yeah, who like Walking Dead fame probably for most people. But yeah, I saw an interview with him, and he was like talking about that they basically had to like pump piles of sweat out of the suit, like so he didn't like drown in it, because it was so the cruel things your older brother makes you do, where they were like, yeah, get in the suit, go into this. It was just a hole in the floor. Like the basement's a whole nother set, so it's just a hole in the floor, and they're like, yeah, you're there for the day. Go sit there.
I'm sorry, that's so good.
So I thought that was pretty funny, because like I said, I can just imagine that Sam Raimi just didn't feel that bad about it.
Another note I made, Rowan, which is interesting because specifically, once again, on our Evil Dead Rise episode, you were commenting on how it was like gory, but like not gory enough for you, and talking about how the original ones are so much more gory and so crazy. A lot of kills in this movie happen with silhouettes or shadow puppets or off camera. So I was curious, like with the blood red splattering over the screen or green blood, you don't see a lot in this movie either. I think you see actually way more in the newer ones. So I feel like it's almost like a nostalgic aspect to you, like you prefer it, but there's definitely not a lot of like on-screen gore in this compared to Evil Dead Rise or probably the 2013 one.
Called out.
Yeah, I feel called out. It might be. I mean, I think to me it's always imprinted in my mind, like, where the chainsaw is in Linda's body and it's just like dumping, this blood all over him, and the stuff like the hand in the wall, it's just pour. Like, I guess nostalgia is just like, oh yeah, there's tons and tons of blood in this.
Yeah, I feel like it's how Texas Chainsaw, when you remember it in your head, it's this like gory, horrific movie. Like it's so graphic. And then you go back and watch it, it's like 90% of the kills happen off camera, and it's just implied. I feel when I was watching it, I was just expecting there to be a lot more on-screen gore. And like, don't get me wrong, there's a little bit, but it wasn't quite as much as I was expecting based off our other discussions.
Like I said, I'm sticking to that. I love the gore in this, so I refuse to move. I'm a stubborn old man.
I'm gonna have to do like a supercut. I'll go back and look at all the deaths, and I'll be like, look, most of them happen off-screen, Rowan. How can you stand for this?
And he'll do it too. He'll take several hours of his time just to prove you wrong.
I know.
I'm going back to work. I don't have the time for it anymore. But
I was gonna say a couple months ago, Colton would have been that petty.
Oh, I mean,
a couple months ago,
weeks ago.
Currently, honey,
I have the receipts. For anything, you guys I don't know if you guys don't know how to search conversations. It takes me 1 second to search a keyword.
Making receipt.
Yeah,
I'm not making receipts.
I know how to search conversations. I have text messages from 2012 on my phone, my friend.
Yeah, so do I. I just have. I've never deleted any text messages I've had with any person. So it's just literally like, I'm pretty sure Mike couldn't be on the Scream 6 episode, but now he's making it seem like we didn't want him on it. So I just search up the term Scream 6, and it's right there where you're like, I can't do it. So that's how I had
the poor listeners are like,
a
Jesus
5-second search, 5
anyway,
seconds.
you fucking two. I have a question for everybody. Very important.
All right.
You know how some people wonder if Die Hard is a Christmas film? Do we think Evil Dead 2 is a Christmas film with the red and green blood splatters? Discuss.
Discuss.
I think it's a Dr. Seuss film. That's my 2 cents. It's very Green Eggs and Ham.
Oh my god.
Green eggs and hamming it up.
There we go.
There you go.
That was bad. Speaking of the green blood, I really like the green blood in this. I think it add something interesting to it that maybe, the Deadites have, something different in their veins, I guess. Like, I didn't think it looked terrible. I don't think it's a Christmas movie. Nice try, Jill. Nice.
There you're wrong.
Nice try. But, I mean, I'd be more curious what everyone would think if you were gifted this Zeller's magnifying glass as a gift, which is, used throughout even in like the 2013, we get like a call to it. And I just think it's super funny because I'm like, man, this looks like shit.
I was literally like on Shein looking for it. Like, I want a replica of this. Etsy, where are you?
Shein. Get out of here. Get out of here.
That's where you
Why does he have so many women? He always has a new woman, and then he's just like, all right, fucking die, but here's this necklace first.
Maybe that's what's really going on, is that it's not a remake or a requel. It's, he's just bringing every woman he meets named Linda, and he just has a box in his trunk full of these necklaces.
There's a lot of Lindas. Some people date like the same named people. Maybe he found 2 Lindas.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Maybe. Yeah.
I think he's a little stud with that unibrow. Even though I don't personally see it, I think he's picking up all the chicks named Linda.
We can't get into
You
this
know
again.
he lays some pipe. You know it. We all know
Disgusting.
I mean, I can also agree that Bruce Campbell is very attractive. So I feel like it's 2 against 2 now. So
thank you for
not it's okay. Me and Colton have taste. We know that.
True.
Your taste in men just impeccable, I guess.
Actually, yeah, I feel.
What did you guys think about the father, the archaeologist, the ghost spirit in the bedroom that just appears and does a wild yell? That yell
He's like,
is there much to
get
think
the
about
fucking
that?
book, you idiots. And they're like, oh yeah, the book.
Every time he yells at the end, I laugh just because it's so ridiculous. And I was like, man. I can't recreate it. I was going to try to recreate it. I can't do it.
Please do.
I
do it with your fake voice.
Yeah, I'll put my fake voice on and do it.
But somebody on Etsy is selling a replica of that necklace, and it's $40, and it's a really bad replica. I'm sorry.
Dude, I could probably make you one.
Listen, Jill, let's do it.
All right.
Oh, yeah,
there's
there's actually a good one on there, and it's $70, so I'm not doing that. I was hoping for a Shein knockoff that was like the size of
for a poor person like you, I'll try my best.
My poverty is, I was going to say irrelevant, but it's extremely relevant.
I had a good tidbit fact for you guys that I thought was pretty interesting about when they wrote this film. Because obviously, I don't know if any of you guys looked anything up about it, but before this, Raimi had put out Crime Wave, and that, bombed. And basically, they did this because they all agreed that if we don't make Evil Dead 2, our careers are just gonna go downhill, because we just did this epic bomb at the theater. Which was, in Crime Wave, I believe, is written by Raimi and the Coen brothers together.
Ooh.
But when they wrote this, I was looking at, was reading an interview where they were living in California, and they lived in a giant house with a bunch of people. And this is the people that lived in the house with them while they wrote this. So it was Raimi and Spiegel, the Coen brothers, Kathy Bates, Frances McDormand, and Holly Hunter.
Oh, that makes sense.
And that was their house. That's who they lived with.
Literally legends and icons only.
All legends and icons. So I thought it was interesting. They talked about Bobby Joe. They actually based off of Holly Hunter.
Ooh, okay, I love it.
So that was when they wrote it. They said that was their inspiration.
Can you imagine though if Holly Hunter had acted that role, it would have been fucking insane. Insane. Although I don't know, because I don't think she would have appreciated the camp of it all. And I don't know if it would have worked, but I think it would have been insane. I would love to see an alternate universe, just watch it once and see her in that role.
What about an alternate universe where there's just guest appearance Deadites by Frances McDormand and Kathy Bates?
I would love Kathy Bates as Henrietta.
I could see it.
It'd be so good.
Yeah, it really would.
So we just have to find a role for Frances McDormand now.
No, she'd be Annie. 100% Annie.
She'd be Annie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you could do that.
I see her as being a fucking sick Annie.
So, well, before we wrap anything up, let's talk about the ending a bit. Let's talk about trees, guys. Let's talk about trees with faces. Trees that bang the shit out of your house. How did that work for you guys? How did you like, this isn't Evil Dead 1 where, everyone's scared of the trees and, they don't really, other than attack you with branches, it's kind of creepy.
It's giving Whomping Willow.
Yeah, we get like actual trees that are basically walking and have scary faces on them, I guess. Colton, how did that work for you?
I mean, I thought it was pretty good. Like, clearly they go all out on the ending where, like, it feels like a little bit, like, dangerous even when I'm watching it, like, just the way things are moving and, like, these large, like, sets being destroyed. I thought it was fun. I think he should have shouted out J.R.R. Tolkien for, the faces with trees, or trees with faces on them, but that's all right. Won't take too much away from him. But yeah, it worked for me. I liked it. I liked the big demon face appearing in the doorway and all that sort of stuff.
Noted hack, J.R.R. Tolkien.
Oh my God, you take that back.
Oh, excellent. There we go. Hang on. Let me.
Holy shit.
No, I'm kidding.
I was going to say, I thought it worked. I kind of liked it. It goes with the campiness. It goes with the silliness. I love, the kind of gags of it. Just the kind of fun stuff where, like, the tree reaches in and grabs them. And, it's very, like, kind of classic giant, grabbing onto a human look in storytelling. Even the face, like, I thought the face was awesome, and, like, shoving the chainsaw in the eye, we get a little more gore, a little more blood in that scene. I was a little curious when they open the book before the trees come, how Bruce doesn't recognize that the guy in the picture's wearing the exact same outfit as him, and also has a chainsaw hand.
Are you talking about, like, the pose? Like at the end when he's in medieval times, or different?
Yes.
Well, in the Necronomicon, there's a picture.
It's him.
It's him.
He's like,
Necronomicon,
that's weird.
Rowan.
Not the Necrocomicon.
It's when
the
it goes.
Nom Nom Nom.
Yeah, whatever it's called, guys.
But you guys, oh my God, that would be an amazing name for a new convention, Necrocomicon.
Yeah.
And you get all.
It sounds like a necrophiliac,
but
meeting,
it could be all,
and I don't know about that.
It could be like a limited edition one where it's just like people who've been in like Evil Dead movies and series and games and stuff.
That would be cool.
Right?
Why don't you do that and not be poor anymore? Like, this is how you rise to fame.
But see, the problem is I'm also lazy.
Okay, well, we'll sell it to someone.
Yeah,
trademark it.
I trademark, slide into my DMs, we'll figure something out.
Speaking of that picture, Rowan, though, I was disappointed that he didn't, like, accidentally strike the exact same pose for, like, the last shot of the movie, because it seemed like they were very much pulling out to do that, and then they just never did it. So it was a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, and I feel like even with Army of Darkness, like, he doesn't do the pose either, so they, it's just kind of forgotten.
Awful.
He should have landed in the pose.
There you go.
It's because he can't act, according to Colton, so he didn't do the pose.
I mean, once again, the physical acting would have been great if he did the pose. Just, he had to open his mouth and
just give him $2 more. Groovy.
So, was there any other notes you guys had before we wrap up talking about Evil Dead 2?
I think we've hit the notes.
I think we hit the notes, and, I feel we always say with kind of movies this big, it's really hard to, you're just rehashing what everyone else talks about with
there's
these,
a lot to say, yeah.
These iconic movies, trying to talk about things different than everyone else just doesn't ever really work out.
Yeah, I sort of wish that I rewatched the first one now just because of how much you had it as like a direct point of comparison, saying that you were preferring certain aspects, just because like I couldn't even comment on that at all. It's been so long, right? But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll watch it again sometime soon.
I hope you do. So then we will get into rating it. If you are new to the show, our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. Colton, what would you rate Evil Dead 2?
I'd give it a yay. I think ultimately it's pretty good. There's a section, like I said, in the middle where shortly after all the people arrive and you kind of leave the cabin, it feels quite samey for a while. And like I said, it's not boring. It's all of a very similar chaotic note. And it's kind of the same note sustained for a long time. So if you're listening to music and someone plays a nice note and then it just goes on for 10 minutes, you might get a little bit annoyed of the note or bored with it. That was kind of my vibe. And like I said, I also think Bruce Campbell, outside of his physical comedy, is pretty awful in this. And I don't like what they did with his unibrow and his makeup and stuff. It's a little bit too silly. That being said, I do think the movie has a lot of charm, and the effects that they used at the time were a lot of fun. And in the end, it kind of offers a lot in like a unique, zany horror that I can't really think of too much else that's in a similar vein other than, something like Houseu, which I much prefer. But, it's pretty good. I'd give it a yay. What about you, Mike?
Honestly, as with pretty much every entry, except I haven't seen the new one, so we're not counting that, in this series, it's kind of a slay to me. I love the first one, and to me, it just took the first one and spun it off in like a totally different direction, and I look at it as like the hot daddy of horror comedies, and I just think it's
I don't
like
know how to respond to that.
It's the fucking banger of like horror comedy, it's the blueprint. I love Bruce Campbell. I don't think he can act. I think he's oozes charisma like black and green blood out of walls and trees and floors and skies. So everything is like slay, 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 slay. I love it. The cherry on top of the cake for me is that as the years go by, when I go several years without watching it and then watch it again, I appreciate it more. Like, I love it so much more now than the first time I saw it when I was a teenager. So I the fact that like it's aging in my mind and in my esteem like, fine wine, slay. Ro, what do you think?
I wanted to be a little critical of it this time around because I've never really looked at it with a critical lens. But it's still going to be a slay for me. Like I said, this is kind of comfort watch for me. I enjoy this film. I like the comedic bits. I like, I like the gory bits, even though Colt wants to argue with me if it's gory or not.
It's not so much arguing if it's gory. It's just you always shout out like, oh, that old one was so much more gory, And then I go back and watch it and I go, it's not though.
I just really love this movie. It kind of informed everything that I think about horror and that I think about movies, what I like. So yeah, it's a slay all freaking day for me. Jill, what about you?
So I loved how trippy it was in the beginning. I like how the audience is really going through it with Ash when he's losing his mind and being taunted with the evil. That sucked me in from the beginning. I think it's an amazing sequel, I'm going to say that, to the first movie, requel, whatever you want to call it. And it surpasses it for me, even though I do agree with you, Rowan, about, it's not so much horror as it was in the first one. But I do really like the nightmarish quality of the chaos that's never ending like a bad fever dream, but it kind of keeps you ensnared. And yeah, I'm going to give it a groovy slay.
Oh.
It works for me. It's a fun movie, lots of gore and camp, and I like that it embraces that and is pretty self-aware. So yeah, no one's surprised.
So I think 3 unanimous slays and just an opinion that will cut. I mean, it's a slay. It's a slay. I don't want people to come after Colton. I don't want them to hunt him down and...
Yeah, you do.
I don't want him to lose his job and all that kind of stuff.
Jeez, okay, all right.
He is going to get exposed, yeah.
Yeah.
Canceled.
So, we told you what we thought about Evil Dead 2, and we asked you what you thought about it, and you guys gave some answers. So, we'll go to Twitter first. Not Tyler Blair, at Not Tyler Blair, sent what you should send when we ask you your opinion, which is just the GIF or the GIF of Ash saying groovy, which, I mean, that's just the seal of approval, of course.
Yeah.
And then we have at Justin Brownson said slay all day. Yeah,
Period.
Of course. And then we had 3 responses on Instagram. So we had Nothing to Fear podcast who said best in the entire franchise, which I feel isn't
it's not that hot of a take. Yeah,
not that hot of a take. This is on I didn't realize this is on like a lot of lists, like official lists
for like best horror sequel.
Yeah, so definitely people love it. Pedal Frog wrote and just said unhinged ! So I'm gonna take that as a good unhinged.
I'm gonna take that as she was reviewing this episode that we're currently recording.
And then Lana Del Fear wrote and said, Hello Lover is one of my favorite scenes ever. I mean, Mike talked about that scene a bit, and everyone loves that scene. Yeah. The head in the vice grip.
The taste. Yeah.
So yeah, and from that, I'm gonna send us over to a very busy horrific hotline.
It's been ringing nonstop.
I figured I'll start because I didn't. I was bad. I didn't send over the voicemail to Colton because my computer was having a meltdown. So I will play I promised last episode that we would get a dose of Rhonda Fraser in this episode.
Hell yeah.
You know, I tried hard. I fought for you listeners to get her on the full episode, but I knew getting my mother on a 2+ hour long episode would not happen. And so she was more comfortable. She said, I'll do voicemail and then I don't have to sit there. And I said, yeah, okay. So I'm going to follow this by saying you guys are going to get a bonus voicemail maybe next episode because I did go see Evil Dead Rise with my mom on the weekend, and I said, hey, don't forget, I need you to leave me a message for Evil Dead 2 to review. She said, sure thing. She then proceeded to leave me a review for Evil Dead Rise. And I was like, yeah, you
classic mom.
Classic mom. I was like, you reviewed the wrong movie, so I'm going to start looking at empty beds and homes to put you in.
What the fuck?
But like a trooper, this morning she wrote me and said, I have watched Evil Dead 2 and I'll send you something. So yeah, we'll go to the voicemail of Rhonda Fraser.
Okay, Rhonda Fraser here, Rowan Fraser's mother, who may have reviewed the wrong movie in my last voice note, because, you know, I only half listen to my child when he tells me what I'm supposed to be giving my opinion on.
Oh, so,
Evil Dead 2, 1987. I just don't have enough good to say about this movie. In the first 5 minutes, it's incredibly clear what you're going to get. I love when the romantic scene stops, because why wouldn't you stop in the middle of a cabin in the woods when you're making nice on your girlfriend and you're going to stop and listen to this dusty old reel tape? So you know right from there how it's going to go. We move from there into, you know, double Bruce Campbell's in the mirror, hands, white flowing, what, supposed to be blood? Maybe vomit, maybe shit. Who knows? You never know what you're getting, really. And it makes up and laughs what it lacks in good, scary jumps. So, yeah, in my mind, if we're going to talk about B movies, bad special effects, tongue-in-cheek, good time, Evil Dead 2 kind of has it all. So for me, it would be way better than an okay. It would be an It Slays, because every movie you watch that is intending to be funny, trying to be scary, I'm always comparing them to Evil Dead 2. Did they meet the mark? Did they take themselves too seriously? Well, in Evil Dead 2, I would say they knew what they were making. They succeeded in making exactly what they intended to make, which was bad special effects, great humor, and Bruce Campbell at his finest.
I like the backhanded compliments of the bad special effects coming up multiple times throughout it.
Bless her heart.
Oh, it's great.
That's great.
I think whenever there's a new, really prestigious, elevated horror film that comes out, sometime within the next year, we need the Rhonda Fraser review of that.
Yeah.
Just like, I want to put her through like a 2-hour elevated horror movie on grief that's just like miserable to sit through and see what her take is.
We'll have to get it. I did make her sit through Hereditary and Midsommar.
Oh, okay. Well, then never mind. She's used to them then. So,
yeah.
Maybe it wouldn't be as interesting of a take.
Yeah, she might be a less boring take, I feel.
And yeah, we have a couple other voicemails here to get to. All right. And the first one, I think, is from Steven.
Groovy. Hey, guys. It's Steven. Somewhat long-time listener of the podcasts and a friend of the not-so-humble Colton. And this is my first time watching any of the Evil Dead movies, so I watched the first 2 last night and had a good time. I think I definitely like the first one slightly more, but I understand why the second one is so well loved. But that first one, man, with the eyes cropped in real close for some of the scenes, I just love that. That stuff was awesome. But I think for my favorite scene in this movie, it's hard, but I think it might be when Ash gets his hand bitten by his girlfriend's head and is screaming, and then out of nowhere, tool shed! And followed by him screaming, and then in the kitchen when he's fighting with his own hand, and the voiceover is just gold. Like, what great cinema. I think I'd probably rate Evil Dead 2 a yay. I'm probably gonna go back to the first one sooner than I will the second one, but that's just my personal preference. And I was wondering if you noticed a little piece of movie trivia. I don't know if it's well known or not, but I noticed that necklace chain in one scene was laid out in the shape of a skull, so I thought that was kind of cool little detail. And then a question for the podcast is, if we are horror hounds, the listeners, are you also horror hounds, or are you like horror hound dog trainers or something? What's up with that?
Asking the important questions.
What is up with that?
That is so fucking existential.
Yeah, so I don't know. That last question, I think, I don't know what to say about that. Rowan, you're the one who came up with the term, aren't you?
I didn't think about it that deeply, so...
Oh, no.
Well, now it's time. Now's your time to
I'll have to come up with
philosophize
some
about
sort
it.
of witty answer to it or something. I will say, and I of course I didn't write it down, I can't find it now, but apparently the tool shed, like where he says tool shed, is supposed to be some sort of shout out to like Kirk Douglas in something, or...
Oh, okay.
Apparently it's a reference to another movie that I can't remember what it was, but I'm sure if you looked it up, it's somewhere there. That it's a good time. Also, we didn't talk about, but in the tool shed, there's a Freddy glove hanging up.
Oh, I never noticed that either, and I also never noticed that the chain gets laid out in a shape of a skull either. I guess I wasn't watching that closely. Yeah,
but yeah, I forgot to bring up that they had one of the special effects artists was also working on Nightmare on Elm Street, and obviously, Sam Raimi and Wes Carpenter. Wes, oh my God!
Wes,
we're revoking it. We don't even have to worry about
what
you call us. In regards to the horror hounds, Wes Carpenter.
Ro is not a horror hound or a whatever.
I know, right? Wes Craven.
He doesn't even like dogs.
Wes Craven. But obviously they have that back and forth in the original Evil Dead, like the Hills Have Eyes poster, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and in Nightmare on Elm Street 1, they're watching Nancy Has Evil Dead 1 on our TV.
Exactly. So they continue the conversation. That's what I was trying to say. Anyway, go to the next voicemail and stop embarrassing me.
All right. Thanks for calling in, Steven, and also being a
you.
patron of the show. So here's our next one, probably from Nicholas, I would assume.
It's time to talk about Evil Dead 2, and I think it's definitely a slay. It is a great movie. It is fast-paced, it is funny, although I have to say sometimes the slapstick humor gets a bit silly, but that's what the movie wants to do. It does have some gory scenes, and Bruce Campbell as Ash is really great in what he is doing. And rewatching it, I just couldn't believe how much of the movie he actually is only acting alone alongside all the animated objects and his hand and just the corpse of his girlfriend. So yeah, I think it's a very fun movie, and I can just rewatch it all the time because it is only 85 minutes. Though I think overall, just personal preference, I prefer the first one a bit more due to the I think just the background story of the first one really being more or less a couple of people going to the forest and making a movie under those horrible conditions, and the first one just being more gritty than the second one. But both brilliant movies, and actually really looking forward to Evil Dead Rise coming to Germany in I think 1 or 2 weeks.
Nice.
Awesome.
I think it's interesting that both of the listeners actually preferred the first one as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm also a little bit disappointed that I thought for a second he was going to say Bruce Campbell wasn't that good. And then Nicholas really let me down.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, I guess in my eyes, I just always assumed everyone was a fan of the second one more so than the first one.
That's what I thought too.
Here I was
Honestly.
thinking that I'm like, the first one's kind of underrated, and apparently not. Apparently everyone's kind of on that same level.
Yeah, I always thought that as well. I've always heard that most people prefer the second one, but maybe when you watch them in quick succession, maybe it's just kind of like the first time I watched them where I felt like I preferred the first one. I don't know.
Thanks to everybody calling in. Thanks to my mother for not terribly embarrassing me or anything. And yeah, like I said, maybe next episode we'll just randomly play her review to Evil Dead Rise, because
please.
Because
I mean, you can't waste it.
That's what
needs more Rhonda.
Doesn't
matter what we're doing.
100%.
More Rhonda.
Rhonda's corner.
Bring her on full time.
Wow, yeah.
And if you made it this far in the show and you're not following us on our socials, you can do so at It Slays Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Slasher, Letterboxd. If there's a social media, we're probably there at It Slays Podcast. And if you want to support the show, like our horror hounds Holly, Nicholas, Patrick, Mark, Steven, Joy, and Carvey, gain access to the Patreon-exclusive show Stream Screams, hosted by Jill, and get episodes of this here main show 48 hours early, be sure to head on over to patreon.com/itslayspodcast and choose whatever tier works best for you. Now, Rowan, go ahead. Let's plug the playlist.
So if you're into spooky music, you can go to Spotify and look up the It Slays Podcast Horrific playlist. If you have any problems finding it, you can go to any of the social media that Colton just mentioned. Go to the Linktree link, and there is one right there. You can click. It'll take you right to the playlist. We upload music from movies we review, or iconic horror movies, or just horror movies in general. And yeah, go listen to it, because any time is a good time to get your spooky music on. So go check that out. And I think all that is left is to announce our next episode, which is a Mike pick. So Mike, do you want to announce your pick?
So the next pick, I don't know why it took me 10 years to remember this, is the amazing OG Cat People. I mean, amazing. Oops, no spoilers.
Mike hates
it's Cat
it.
People.
That's...
It's the worst movie I've ever seen.
Right on. I'm excited. This has been on my list for a while, so.
And Rowan, are we going to announce the special guest, I think, that's coming?
Yeah, so, because I believe Colton hates...
I'm not going to be here because I hate cats, so I'm not going to watch this movie.
Yeah.
So instead, we're getting a much better replacement.
If there's three things he hates cats, he hates women, and he hates feminism, so...
Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
I thought you were gonna go like cats, camp, and then I don't know, something else. But oof.
No, but
definitely women. Colton hates women.
Don't worry,
Yeah,
people.
let's just keep
canceled.
saying it. Let's get some like clean, we
Clean
can just take
audio.
it. Yeah, clean audio, put on a soundboard. Yeah.
But yeah, so Colton won't be able to make it due to work. So we have invited Willow back to talk about cat people. And I'm excited to see what she has to say about it because I know, I think she's written about this before. So we'll have her on so she can just make us all look like idiots and
It'll be a banger.
So, as always, thank you for all the support. We'll be back in 2 weeks, or probably shorter than that. I'm sure there's a stream screams, or I mean, maybe a Now Slain someday coming. We'll see. But you'll hear from us. So, as always, thank you for the support. I am Rowan.
Bye, it's Mike.
I'm the misogynist pig, Colton.
Stay groovy. It's Jill.
See you later.
We're going to expand our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store. Back where it says horror videos and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
But the prime time gets.
Mom with the new fletch.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.